So I, 28F, live about 20 minutes from my sister, 32F. She has 3 kids under 10, and while I love them, I've been very clear with her that I'm not her backup babysitter. I have my own life, my own work schedule, and frankly, I'm exhausted most of the time. Yesterday, I was home on my one day off, planning to catch up on laundry and finally have a do-nothing day. Around 11 a.m., I hear a knock at the door. It's my sister, with all 3 kids in tow. She says, "Hey, I need you to watch them for a few hours. I'll be back." I told her I couldn't. I had stuff to do, plus she hadn't even asked in advance. She literally shoved the kids inside my apartment and said, "You'll be fine, thanks," before running back to her car. I didn't even have time to react before she drove off. I was stunned. I texted her immediately saying, "Come back and get them. I told you I can't do this today." She didn't reply. I called multiple times, no answer. So I sat the kids down, gave them snacks, luckily I had some, and kept trying her phone. 3 hours later, I'd had enough. I packed the kids up, drove them back to her house, and dropped them off on her porch. She finally came back about 30 minutes later and started blowing up my phone, calling me irresponsible and saying I put her kids in danger. I told her she put them in danger by abandoning them at my place without my consent. Now she's furious. My mom is on her side saying family helps family, and apparently I'm the selfish aunt who doesn't care about her nieces and nephew. But I really feel like this is a boundary issue.
First house about 8 months ago. It's in a quiet suburban neighborhood, nothing fancy, but it has a decent yard and a garage, which is all I really wanted. From the moment I moved in, my next-door neighbor, let's call her Karen 40SF, has been a nightmare. She came over on day 1 while I was unloading boxes to inform me that she expects peace and quiet, no parties, and no cars parked in front of her house. Okay, fine. I wasn't planning to do any of those things anyway, but it didn't stop there. When I had friends over for a barbecue, 7 people, all done by 9 p.m., she came out screaming that we were disturbing the peace. She left a note on my car windshield telling me to park in my own driveway, even though the street is public. She called the HOA because my grass was half an inch too long. Last week, she banged on my door at 8 p.m. because I was playing guitar in my living room, not amplified, just an acoustic guitar. Finally, 2 days ago, I was working on a small woodworking project in my garage around 5 p.m., sanding some shelves. Karen storms over and says, "You need to tone it down. This is a family neighborhood, not a construction zone." I told her I was within noise ordinance hours and that I wasn't doing anything unreasonable. She completely lost it, yelling that I was destroying the community and that she was going to get me removed. From my own house? I told her flat out that I'm done accommodating her demands, and if she keeps harassing me, I'll call the police for trespassing. Now she's been telling the other neighbors that I'm hostile and disrespectful. A couple of them are friendly with her and have hinted I should just keep the peace and do what she says to avoid drama. But I don't see why I should have to tiptoe around one unreasonable person. The day after post, I was sanding wood again in the garage, around 4:30 p.m., literally middle of the day. 10 minutes later, 2 police officers showed up at my door. Apparently, Karen called them to report construction noise outside of legal hours and claimed I was operating power tools all night. I explained the situation, showed them the timestamps from my doorbell camera, proving I wasn't making noise at night, and the officers basically rolled their eyes. One even said, "We get calls from her all the time." They told me I was fine and left. The next day, I woke up to find my trash cans had been dragged into the middle of the street. Guess whose security camera caught her doing it at 6 a.m.? Yep, Karen. So I printed a still image, taped it to my front door and wrote, "Karen, smile. You're on camera. Next time the police get a copy." That evening she stormed over screaming about harassment and how I was invading her privacy. I just shut the door in her face. The good news, the neighbors who were neutral before have started to realize she's the problem. One even came over and apologized for siding with her earlier. Apparently she's pulled similar stunts with them too. So yeah, I'm still keeping a log, saving video evidence, and ready to file a harassment complaint if she keeps it up. At this point, I'm just glad I'm not crazy. She really is the neighborhood villain. So I was on a 5-hour flight yesterday, and of course, there had to be a Karen moment. I'd booked an aisle seat weeks in advance because I hate being squished against the window. When I got to my row, there's already a woman, maybe late 40s, heavy perfume cloud, designer knockoff purse, sitting in my seat. Me, "Excuse me, I think that's my seat." "Oh no, it's fine. I already got comfortable. You can just sit in the middle, sweetie." Me, "No, I paid for this specific seat." She huffed and tried the classic, "Well, I need the aisle because I have a bad knee" excuse. Funny thing was, I'd literally just seen her shove her carry-on into the overhead bin like a CrossFit champion. Flight attendant comes over after hearing the commotion. Karen immediately goes into full meltdown mode, claiming I was being aggressive and harassing a woman with medical issues. The FA asks to see our boarding passes. I show mine. Karen suddenly can't find hers and keeps digging in her giant purse. Spoiler, her boarding pass showed she was assigned the middle seat next to me. The FA very politely told her she had to move. Karen refused, saying she was already settled and it would be cruel to make her move now. Eventually, the FA just said, "Ma'am, either move to your assigned seat or we will have to remove you from the plane." Cue instant waterworks. She dramatically whispered, "This is harassment. I'll sue." The guy in the window seat muttered, "Please sue faster. We'd all like to take off." After 10 minutes of stalling, she finally moved to the middle seat, still muttering about ungrateful youth and no respect for elders. The best part? Halfway through the flight, she tried to lean over me to use the aisle to do stretches, nearly whacking me with her elbow. I just hit the call button, and the same FA came over like, "Ma'am, back in your seat, please."
I, 24F, just moved out of my parents' house after living there for my entire life. I work full time and have been saving for years to finally have my own place, and I thought moving out would feel liberating, but it's been way more intense than I expected. My parents are extremely controlling. They micromanaged everything: what I ate, what I wore, who I hung out with, and even my career decisions. They would call me 5 to 10 times a day when I was at work, demand I answer every text immediately, and guilt trip me anytime I did something wrong. I tried to set boundaries before, but it always ended in screaming matches. For example, I once stayed at a friend's place for a weekend without telling them every hour what I was doing, and they blew up my phone until I came home. So, when I finally signed the lease for my first apartment, I knew this was my chance to cut the cord. I moved in, changed my phone number, and limited contact to only essential things like emergencies. I sent a short message explaining I needed space to live independently and work on myself, and that I'd reach out when I was ready. Their reaction? Pure chaos. My mom cried constantly, posting abandonment messages on my social media. My dad accused me of being ungrateful and selfish and threatened to cut me out of the will, which honestly, I don't care about. They've also been calling mutual family members, trying to guilt me into reconnecting. I'm finally happy and independent, but some of my relatives are saying I overreacted and that I should respect my parents, even if they're toxic.
After my post, I went mostly no contact with my parents. I only kept my new number for emergencies and blocked them on social media. For about a week, it was quiet. Then my aunt called and told me my parents had driven by my apartment complex multiple times looking for my car. Sure enough, a few days later, I came home from work and found a note taped to my door. It said, "You're breaking our family apart. We raised you, we sacrificed everything for you, and you owe us loyalty. If you don't call us, we will come inside." That freaked me out. My parents still have a spare key from when they helped me move in. I immediately changed the locks. The next day, my mom showed up pounding on my door for half an hour. When I didn't open, she screamed through the hallway about how a daughter who abandons her parents is cursed. Neighbors had to ask her to leave. At that point, I filed a police report for harassment and asked about a restraining order. The officers said, given the notes and the behavior, it's definitely possible if it continues. Here's the surprising part. Since I changed the locks and got the police involved, my dad sent me a short email basically saying, "Fine, if you want nothing to do with us, then we'll stop. Don't come back when you realize your mistake."